We say all praises be to the Creator, all power to his people. In the name of Yahshua, the Black Revolutionary Messiah, I greet you, my brothers and sisters, in the spirit of truth and the words of peace. Shalom Aleichem. Giving a special salute to the Black Messiahs. Our motto is stop waiting for a Savior and be one. Stop waiting for a Savior and be one. I was watching a video today, and it was a heated conversation, a beef almost, between Akon, the rapper, businessman, producer extraordinaire, and Mysonne, the rapper turned activist. And they got into this beef, heated debate over Tekashi 6ix9ine and his behavior, which many consider is reckless. People saying he's a snitch and all this and that and the third. But what I want to touch on tonight is two grown black men, Akon, who got millions on top of millions of dollars. I think he discovered Lady Gaga. He got Lady Gaga money. And Mysonne, who represents the activist, raptivist community. So they were having a loud discussion, long discussion over Tekashi 6ix9ine. But what I want to focus on tonight is the nature of the conversation between those black men. They were arguing over the street code and whether you are a real nigga or a street nigga. Two grown black men in 2020 were arguing over whether you are a real nigga or a street nigga. And that was the gist of the conversation, because apparently there's some kind of street code where real niggas do this and street niggas do that. And if you do this, you might be a real nigga, but if you do this, you a street nigga. And real niggas can be street niggas, but street niggas can't be real niggas unless they go by the street code. So that was the gist of the conversation, family, between two grown black men. So apparently, Akon wants to save Tekashi 6ix9ine's soul. So I don't know if he's trying to make him take him from being a street nigga to a real nigga, or a street real nigga to a street nigga. I'm confused. I'm confused. But that was the gist of the argument. And what is so funny, family, it ain't funny, but the kid they're arguing over, Tekashi 6ix9ine, is Mexican, who uses the N-word more than anybody. So these two grown men were arguing over street nigga versus real nigga, and almost seemed like they wanted to fight over a Mexican kid who uses the word nigga himself. So let's deal with that, family. Now, a lot of people think that nigga, N-I-G-G-A or N-I-G-G-E-R, came about with hip hop, with NWA. But let's deal with this book by Dr. Randall Kennedy called Nigga, The Strange Career of a Troublesome Word. Now, in his book, he said before the 1970s, however, nigger seldom figured in the routines of professional comedians. It was especially rare in the acts of those who perform for racially mixed audiences. Asserting the unmentionable slurs derive much of their seductive power from their taboo status. The iconoclastic, excuse me, family, white comedian Lenny Bruce recommended a strategy of subversion through overuse. So in 1963, white comedian and Jewish comedian Lenny Bruce had the great idea that if he used the word over and over again, it won't be offensive. This was 1963, almost 20 years before hip hop. Lenny Bruce, a white Jewish comedian in 1963, I want you to hear me, had the idea before people were really using it like that if he used the word over and over again, it'll lose its power. So in Hollywood or the entertainment industry, the use of nigger did not start with Easy, Dre, Yella, and the rest of them, NWA. It can be traced back to Lenny Bruce, a white Jewish comedian. So when you hear the rapper saying, it's our word, we take ownership of it. They got that idea from Lenny Bruce, again, a white man. Most of them don't know that. Now, what we have done in the Black community, we have glorified the street life. We blew the street life up bigger than life. So today, many of us think you ain't real. You ain't keeping it real unless you're from the streets. You ain't black unless you're from the streets. You ain't down unless you're a real nigga. But let's see what Dr. Bobby E. Wright says about that whole street nigga mentality. The psychopathic racial personality. Essays by Dr. Bobby E. Wright. Dr. Bobby E. Wright says, one of the prevailing mental myths in the Black community is that street sense is positive. What is really being inferred is that whites do not control the streets in the Black community, nor the behavior of Blacks on those streets. This is untrue. This is untrue. Whites have more control, or at least as much control, over brothers and sisters in the streets than over those in universities. Street sense generally prepares Blacks to deal with one another in very destructive ways, and then the whites to wipe out the winner. The population of prisons, drug programs, and funeral homes verify this reality. I'm not done. Yet Black children in increasingly large numbers are having to choose between two white institutions, the public schools and the public streets. Both will lead to destruction. Dr. Bobby Wright says the solution to our problem is the development of a Black social theory, which will lead to the salvation of our children's minds. A Black social theory. So, in the Black Messiah movement, we have a program called what the Bible would call raising the people from the dead. And we're talking about the mentally dead. But we like to call it raising our people out of the nigger degree. Raising our people out of the nigger degree. There's a 4-step program. Step number 1, to raise our people out of the nigger degree. Hold on, family. Step number 1, to raise our people out of the nigger degree. Make them identify that they're acting like niggas. Kind of like nigger anonymous. Make them identify that they're acting like niggas. Because some of these young people, they're proud of it. And I'm not just talking about the word, I'm talking about the behavior behind the word. How it has become an entity that feeds upon itself. So step number 1 is to make them realize that they're acting like niggas. Step number 2 is give them the history of the word. The history of the word. Where did the word come from? When the Africans when the Europeans, the Portuguese, went to Africa and they saw black people, they called them the Spanish derivative, or the Spanish word meaning Negro. That's where it came from. That's where Negro came from. And it's an adjective meaning the blacks. The blacks. And when it came over here and went to the South, it took on another, even worse terminology, worse definition, where it made us seem like we were inhuman animals. They said negra. That's how them Southern white folks were taught. They called it Nagra. So that's step number 2. Give them the history of the word. Step number 3 is you got to tug at the heartstrings. Do you want, ask them, do you want your daughter to grow up saying my daddy was a real nigga? Do you want your son to grow up want to be like his daddy, the nigga? Is your mama proud of you being a nigga? When your body's laying in front of that church, do you want that pastor to say he died a real nigga? He died a real nigga. Do you want that to be the legacy that you're leaving for your future generations? So you can have a whole generation of niggas. That's step number 3. Make it personal. And step number 4, give them another sense of identity. All their lives, they've been called niggas. Television calls them niggas. Movie calls them niggas. Radio calls them niggas. Even their own parents may have called them no good niggas. So now they've been called niggas all their lives, and we're taking that from them. But once they've been called niggas all their lives, what are we going to replace it with, brothers and sisters? We got to replace it with another identity. In the Black Messiah movement, we say you're not niggas, you're Black Messiahs with a duty to save your people. And you can switch it. If you're not a Black Messiah, if you're not in that movement, you can say you're a king, you're a queen, but you got to give them another identity. So let's go over the 4 steps again. Step number 1, make them identify with being a nigga. Step number 2, give them the definition and the history of the word. Step number 3, make it hit home, make it personal. And step number 4, once you take that from them, give them a new identity. Brothers and sisters, we're losing too many of our young people all across the country because they want to identify with a street nigga lifestyle. Akon and Mysonne had a heated conversation over being a street nigga versus a real nigga. And the real problem was being a nigga in the first place. As always, we leave you with the Black Messiah motto: stop waiting for a savior and be one. Shalom.